watching KOMO News.
Get ready for a hot one. It's already pretty warm outside right now, depending on where you are. We are expecting record-setting temperatures as we kick off the weekend. Many parts of the Puget Sound will be under an excessive heat watch. We're talking temps in the mid to high 80s.
Let's bring in meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell now to see just how much of a scorcher we can expect.
You know, when temperatures are running 15 to 20 degrees above average, and for days on end, that is very hot around here by Northwest standards. Going to hit the mid to the upper 80s in some cases already today, but certainly tomorrow and beyond that into the weekend. So as a result, there's a heat advisory in place for all of Puget Sound and then back out toward the ocean beaches. This will be Saturday through Monday. That will be the peak of the heat. Again, 80s if not low 90s, which is hot enough. But when you introduce humidity into the mix, that is also unusual by Northwest standards. So that's going to be a big factor this weekend, and certainly being the first real summery weather we've had in quite some time. A lot of people looking to cool off and have fun around our area, lakes and rivers. Remember that they pose a big risk this time of year because of the potential for hypothermia and cold water shock. So that will certainly be the biggest issue at hand for this Mother's Day weekend. As we head into Saturday, temperatures already inching back up into the mid to the upper 80s. So we're getting warmer. Just this evening, a beautiful Friday night. We're already in the low 80s right now, and we'll slowly cool it into the 70s as we head towards 7 and 8 o'clock this evening. Again, a twist in the plot in the terms of the humidity and the chance for thunderstorms next week. We'll dive into that further coming up in the rest of my forecast.
All right, thanks, Shannon. Taking a live look at American Lake Park in Lakewood. It's just one of the many spots people will go to enjoy the sunshine this weekend. KOMO's Theron Zahn shows us what's being done to help keep people cool and safe.
Staying cool this weekend is going to be difficult. Some folks around here are using the lessons they learned during past hot summers to not get burned during this latest blast of heat. Sizzling temperatures across our area are just 24 hours away. Unusually hot temperatures for May will have many parts of western Washington baking in 90-plus degree heat. That has some people already buying AC units.
I'm going to be ready this year. Last year I waited too late, and the prices were sky high for the units.
Dozens of local cities and community groups will have cooling centers. Community centers, libraries, and some churches will be opening their doors to keep people safe. King County Metro says it's not waiving fares during the heat event, but it has told bus drivers to give anyone a trip to a cooling center, even if they don't have the fare to pay. If your house doesn't have AC, it could quickly become dangerously hot for vulnerable people.
The heat actually lasts inside your place longer than the actual heat is there. So if you have from sundown to sunup with actually no venting or air conditioning, the temperatures in your house can rise up to 100 degrees if you're not careful.
And don't let your guard down after Monday. The National Weather Service put out this map with the 8 to 14-day outlook. It shows a 70 to 80% chance of above normal temperatures for the 19th through 25th across much of the West. Emergency responders are warning folks to stay away from the waterways this weekend as you try to stay cool. The water just still too dangerously cold to be jumping in. It could cause immediate shock and drowning. Reporting in Seattle, Theron Zahn, KOMO News.
And that brings us to our local KOMO Pulse poll today. We are asking, how do you keep cool in your Western Washington home? Well, right now you can see 38%, the majority right now, say built-in home cooling system. 31% say portable AC, 21% say fans, and then the 10% there say, I sweat it out. If you'd like to weigh in, just scan the code there on your screen. That'll take you directly to the story where you can cast your vote on KOMOnews.com.
And with this May heat wave, it is a great time to download our KOMO News app. We'll send you breaking news alerts, weather updates, and traffic alerts all straight to your phone. It is free wherever you get your apps. Looking live at SeaTac Airport right now, one of 2 airports in Western Washington where TSA agents have discovered a total of 6 firearms in carry-on luggage already this month. The latest discovery happened yesterday morning at Payne Field. A TSA officer spotted this loaded 9mm handgun through one of those x-rays at Payne Field. Wednesday morning, TSA officers found this loaded Glock pistol in a passenger's carry-on. So far this year, TSA has found 42 firearms between those 2 airports. There were 117 firearms discovered through all of last year.
The list of Washington gubernatorial candidates is growing. Today, Dr. Raul Garcia announced his campaign today at Cary Park in Seattle. Garcia is running as a Republican. He's a full-time trauma and ER doctor in Yakima. Garcia says he'll make a good candidate because he's not a politician.
Through a lot of hard work, dedication, perseverance, and a little luck, I was able to achieve my dream of becoming a doctor. a profession that I could give back to this country.
So here's the lineup so far of candidates. Attorney General Bob Ferguson announced an exploratory campaign for governor. Public Lands Commissioner Hillary Franz announced she'd be running earlier this week, and now Garcia. Governor Inslee announced last week he would not seek a fourth term.
New at 3:30, Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell is showing his appreciation for local educators. The mayor stopped by Fairmount Park Elementary for Teacher Appreciation Week today. Mayor Harrell toured the school and met with teachers and students. This event was organized by the school's Parent-Teacher Association, which said after all the complications of the pandemic on learning, they really wanted to show teachers just how much they're appreciated.
We're here today to celebrate our teachers and our educators who help our kids and our communities stay strong and united and empower us with the abilities we need to succeed in life.
The mayor visited a few classrooms and took some questions from kids who wanted to know everything from what his job entails to what his favorite kind of pizza is. One class even sang their class song for the mayor, which he described as fire.
When that alarm goes off, there's not a person here that doesn't get really excited.
When fires break out, these men and women are the first ones on the front lines.
How smoke jumpers right here in the Pacific Northwest are trained to save lives. Plus,
I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C. This story is for parents with kids taking standardized tests, especially if you have a child in the 3rd grade. The dismal expectations and what experts say educators should do right now.
We've got you all.
First graders who started school in the beginning of the pandemic are now in 3rd grade. And this week, many of them are facing a series of tests that may predict their long-term success.
as national correspondent Angela Brown explains, many of these kids are going into the test behind.
A 2022 report found that 1 in 3 children in K through the 3rd grade have little chance of reading at grade level without major intervention. Many of those students now taking the 3rd grade standardized test that can indicate if someone goes to college or even prison. 3 fingers up on the first day of school.
We said, oh, I'm a big boy now. I'm in the 3rd grade.
8-year-old Clever loves his school, loves his teachers.
It's Mother's Day. He told me yesterday, he said, I got to get my favorite teacher a gift. So we got her flowers, so he should have took it to her today.
This week, pivotal. Clever is taking the 3rd grade standardized tests.
As far as my child, I predict that he will not do well.
That may sound harsh, but Quiana, Clever's mom, has reason to doubt remote learning.
It was a challenge for him to get his education online when he never experienced that before.
3rd grade tests, a predictor. The Department of Ed cites in this paper the link between how kids perform on 3rd grade tests and their future.
Kids that score very low on 3rd grade tests are much more likely to drop out of high school, much less likely to go to college, more likely to end up in the criminal justice system.
Michael Petrilli, president of the Thomas B. Fordham Institute that focuses on K through 12 education and reform, agrees with Quiana, not expecting high marks on 3rd grade tests, warning educators not to just move students on to the next grade, but act.
It's going to mean intensive tutoring. It's going to mean more time with teachers and one-on-one or in small groups. And it may mean repeating the 3rd grade with a lot more intervention and help so that they can catch up.
The Department of Ed investing millions to support student recovery, but districts are having problems staffing schools. As for Quiana, she found tutors for Clever, now working to change his trajectory.
He will be getting out of school tutoring from now all the way throughout the summer, which I predict that he'll do better next school year. But this school year, no.
Reporting in Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
Next at 3:30, a Trump-era border policy comes to an end. The effect it's having on border crossings now and the new rules migrants have to navigate.
The family of the man choked to death on a New York subway taking legal action, while lawyers for the former Marine accused of killing him say he's not a murderer. KOMO News at 3:30 is back after this.
Fast 10.
Border officials are bracing for a surge of undocumented immigrants at the U.S.-Mexico border now that pandemic-era health policy known as Title 42 expired hours ago. So far, the numbers have been pretty steady.
Overnight, we saw similar patterns to what we have seen over the past several days. We continue to encounter high levels of non-citizens at the border, but we did not see a substantial increase overnight or an influx at midnight.
Title 42 allowed the U.S. to quickly turn back undocumented immigrants at the border. Now, non-Mexican migrants must first apply for and be denied asylum in another country, while others will have to make an appointment on the CBP One app. If the rules aren't followed, those undocumented immigrants could potentially be removed and not allowed to enter the U.S. for at least 5 years.
The Biden administration is now facing a legal challenge over new rules. Immigration advocates backed by the American Civil Liberties Union want to reopen an existing lawsuit they filed over similar restrictions former President Trump enforced. Advocates argue it dramatically curtails the availability of asylum in the U.S. The Congressional Budget Office is now forecasting the U.S. is at significant risk of defaulting within the first 2 weeks of June if Congress can't reach an agreement on debt ceiling negotiations. A scheduled debt limit meeting between President Biden and top congressional leaders is now postponed until next week. Republicans are pressing the president to cut trillions in federal spending before agreeing to a debt limit hike. The president, meantime, has called for an increase without any preconditions.
I have not seen from there a seriousness of the White House that they want to deal.
This is not a normal place for us to be, to have House Republicans hold our economy hostage.
The Congressional Budget Office says the Treasury may be able to use cash and other measures to keep the government afloat until June 15th.
Attorneys representing family members of Jordan Neely, a homeless man who was choked to death on a New York City subway about 2 weeks ago while acting unruly, say they want the charge against Daniel Penny upgraded from manslaughter to murder.
Who are we to look at someone and say they were houseless, so they must be a bad person? They were houseless, so they must have been about to attack us. They must have been about to hurt us. So we had the right to take his life because our life matters more.
Now, the witnesses say Neely was shouting at passengers and begging for money. Penny's lawyers say he was threatening other passengers and that Penny was acting in self-defense. The veteran surrendered to police this morning. More severe weather is expected to hit the Midwest and southern plains again today after several tornadoes were reported across 5 states yesterday. South of Oklahoma City is at risk for more tornadoes today after at least 3 touched down there last night. Forecasters say storms with damaging winds and very large hail are headed for the Iowa-Nebraska border early this evening. A few tornadoes are also possible in the mid-Missouri Valley.
When wildfires rage, the defense sometimes falls from the sky, quite literally. Smoke jumpers skydive down to the fire lines. There are just 7 U.S. Forest Service smoke jumper bases across the country. Wright Gazaway with our sister station in Portland gives us a look at one in the Pacific Northwest.
Jump spot, 5-1 the ground wind still the same.
This is not a pleasure flight.
Ground winds are 2 to 3 out of the southwest. 2 to 3 out of the southwest.
You're looking at wildland firefighters.
1,500, get in the door.
Always on call when a fire rages out of control.
You're clear, you're clear.
But this group fights from the air.
Get ready!
Jumping from airplanes, parachuting to the fire lines, in this video, dropping into the Klamath National Forest.
Down here is more of the business end of what we do.
And now they're training for fire season 2023.
This is our gear bag.
They skydive with almost 100 pounds of gear from just 3,000 feet.
When that alarm goes off, there's not a person here that doesn't get really excited. Whether you're on the load or not, whether you're a rookie or that's your 30th year smoke jumping, like, people love it. Everybody's gonna run to this room.
The group mostly goes to fires in areas that ground crews can't get to by road or trail. Sometimes the fires are as small as an acre. They say once they land, their job is pretty much like any other wildland firefighter. They train to limit the risks you and I assume come along with jumping out of a plane into a forest from a few thousand feet above the ground.
The risk is there. It's our job, and that's the reason we try to get as good as we can at it.
This is the plane smoke jumpers go up into the air in. It's set up for 10 smoke jumpers, 2 pilots, a spotter, and an assistant spotter. It's in the air as early as February for training. Smoke jumpers jump all the way through the end of fire season.
We've got an airplane, fixed-wing airplane that can get, to every corner of Oregon in less than an hour or less. That'll take us into Washington.
Josh Cantrell is the Redmond Smoke Jumpers base training manager.
When they call us, we expect to go suppress the fire. Full suppression. Initial attack, full suppression, put the fire out.
They go to fires you may never even know about.
Bad on tack.
The goal is you never find out.
I'm good for now.
All right, it is heating up. We've got some incredible views outside right now. Mount Rainier is out and proud right now. What a great shot this is. A live look at Mount Rainier seen from our tower camera at SeaTac Airport. And Shannon, things are just beginning to heat up. What is it, like 80 in Seattle already?
Yeah, we're hovering right near 80, and this is just the beginning of a long-lasting heat wave around here, and it does qualify as a heat wave. Temps are going to run 15 to 20 degrees above normal for several days in a row. That's unusual. We'll potentially break some records, and it's kind of hard on us by Northwest standards. We're just not built for it, are we? A look right now over this wonderful picture. What a creative shot here from Michael Ostrogorski. You can see Seattle reflected in the windows of the Spokane, the ferry Spokane there. What a cool shot, and a nice day to head across the water, Puget Sound style. We are heading into our Mother's Day heat wave. The records are going to fall in a few locations, although the temps will be mitigated a little bit at the peak of the heat wave by the fact that we start to pull some high cloud cover in. We could bounce some thunderstorms out of those high clouds, and it's just going to feel really muggy and sticky around here. Unusual during a heat wave here in Western Washington. As Preston mentioned, Mount Rainier definitely out today. You can see it's bright and blue, and we're hovering right near that 80-degree mark at SeaTac Airport. Still with a little hint of a sea breeze. That westerly wind still trying to sneak in through the strait. Once we shut it down, which we'll do this weekend, temperatures will climb up even further. They're high enough right now already, primarily 70s to low 80s. Shelton at 83. Kelso, as usual, is our warm pocket there closer to Portland. It's 85 there into the heart of Clark County. 78. What a Friday in Friday Harbor. That would be a gorgeous start to the weekend in the San Juans there near Orcas Island and Lopez too, and we're in the upper 70s near Nia Bay and back towards Sequim. A look at the big pictures. We widen out the view. We've got this big ridge of high pressure as our next weather maker that's setting up shop over Alberta. By the way, that's the same placement, the same location as that now infamous heat dome that gave us the record high temperatures in late June of 2021. It's thankfully not June, or it'd be even hotter, but hot enough again with this pattern in May to give us this strong offshore flow that will bring the temperatures back into the 80s and the 90s. So offshore flow, that's dry and hot. That's going to crank our temps into record territory. But the little twist in the weather plot, literally, because it's a twist in the atmosphere, is the circulation around an area of low pressure that is currently way off in Kansas and Nebraska. What's that have to do with us? Usually storms that are already east of the Rockies don't backtrack. This guy is going to, some of that moisture is going to get pulled back in our direction. And as we head into Monday, the dew point, something we don't have to talk about too often around here, it's a signature that there's a lot of humidity in the air. Gets up into the low 60s around here. That's high. We rarely get into the 60s with heat like this, so it's going to feel really sticky by Monday afternoon. Overnight already starting to head into that kind of tough sleeping weather, and that it takes all night just to cool down to 55. Those are the outside temperatures. Then we crank it into the mid to the upper 80s tomorrow, if not the low 90s, like 91 out of Kent. We'll also end up at 91 in Puyallup and 87 out of Yelman-Lacey. 70 still to be found on Whidbey Island and Langley, but you get into the upper 80s there close to the foothills in Monroe and Gold Bar. Gorgeous in the San Juans again, but hot in Cedro Woolley at 86. 78 out of Port Angeles for a beauty on the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Ocean Beach is inching into the 80s in Long Beach, and look at the 90s around Kelso and back toward Portland. And then in eastern Washington, primarily 80s and 90s from top to bottom as well. Cascade, speaking of the top, will be pushing close to 80 at Snoqualmie Summit. Nice one for hiking around Franklin Falls and cooling off tomorrow. But remember, when you do so, all of that freshly melted snow is still icy cold in our rivers and eventually into our lakes. And cold water shock are going to be a big concern as we head into playing in this heat this weekend. Molly, the heat goes on and on. Even once we break it a little bit with the chance for thunder and lightning and some humidity on Monday, we stay in the 80s again for the remainder of next week.
Wow. All right. Shannon, thank you.
Sure.
Coming up on KOMO News at 4 o'clock.
The border is not open. Not the word from President Biden, but critics say the numbers prove otherwise. I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with a look at the latest efforts to come up with new solutions.
Two kinds of people here in Western Washington, those who go out and soak up all of the sun, others who really want to and should be hiding from it. I'm Denise Whitaker. I've got some ideas that will help you stay cool.
On the air and online, we're always here for you.
Head to KOMOnews.com. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. KOMO News at 4 is just 90 seconds away.